you think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me.
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd?
Not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd. I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late.
Bud's been the best man for 12 years, but no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the best man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fight.
Floyd Mayweather said that he could beat Terence Crawford, and Crawford replied strongly. Crawford promised that he would beat Mayweather even when he was at the top of his game. He also said that history would remember him for always taking on a task. He said that no one could say he avoided opponents because he always fought anyone who came forward. Crawford made it sound like he wouldn't say no to Mayweather if the chance to fight came up.
Started going like this, and then that's when Floyd started taking over.
What do you want your legacy to be like when your career is all said and done? What do you want people to remember you for?
Oh man, everybody's asking me the question. I always be like, man, it's whatever it's their opinion. Everybody gonna have a different opinion of Terence Crawford, you know. But one thing they can't say is that I ducked anyone. You know, I fought everyone that was available to fight.
Dan Rafael said that Terence Crawford's career has moved on so far that he doesn't need to fight again to keep his good name. He believes Crawford has already done more than anyone else because he has won divisions, unified titles, and defeated great opponents without showing any signs of weakness. Rafael says that when a fighter gets to this level, it's not about proving himself, but about protecting his legacy and getting the credit he deserves. Crawford's resume has already surpassed many people's expectations, and taking fights that aren't necessary won't help his legacy. Instead, his dominance in the ring, especially in the last few years, has made him one of the all-time greats.
What does Terence Crawford do now? Like, what's the next thing that he does? Because you look around and go, is the only way that he really gets that, maybe that ultimate chance if he goes up again? And do you say, you know, what do you do?
I don't quite. Yeah, I mean, you know, he was asked those questions at the press conference. He made two things clear. One, he's not going back to 154, and I say that because some people suggested about possibly pursuing a fight with Ennis, who has his debut in the weight class coming up.
Yeah.
That's probably unlikely. He's not going to go back down in weight. And I mean, no disrespect to Ennis, but Ennis is a guy that's known within the diehards of boxing. He's not in any way known beyond the boundaries of the hardcore boxing fan. So yeah. I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of different reasons for him. Not to say I wouldn't, as a boxing fan, enjoy watching the fight. So, yeah. But I don't think he's going back to 154. He was asked about like a Benavides at 175, and he acknowledged like that guy is really big. I mean, that's maybe a bridge too far. He already went up to 2 weight classes to fight Canelo at 68. So it feels to me like he can either stay at 168 and defend this championship and look to the same types of names that were being thrown around as the types of guys that would have been in the mix for Canelo had he won the fight. And, you know, he's going to have mandatories. Obviously, that's the first thing they'll have to look at. I mean, I don't know if he's not going to necessarily keep the belts if he's forced into a mandatory. He doesn't need the belts at this point, but there might be something appealing to him. You know, for example, you know, and Billy had a great fight on the undercard, although he's been ordered to fight a rematch in that fight. Mm-hmm. That was, you know, like fight of the year against Lester Martinez, candidate for fight of the year.
Boxing fans had a lot to say about Terence Crawford's brutal win over Canelo Alvarez. People who watched and talked about the fight said it was like Floyd Mayweather's win over Canelo. While Mayweather beat Canelo when he was younger and less experienced, Crawford beat a more experienced version of the Mexican star, which has made people wonder if Crawford is really better. Luke Thomas, on the other hand, has reminded fans that Crawford's success took longer to take off than Floyd. In the early stages of his career, Mayweather fought some of the best boxers in the world, which made him famous at a young age. Crawford, on the other hand, has taken longer to become well-known because he hasn't been promoted or recognized enough. Because of this, his best achievement will happen later. Because of this, Thomas thinks that even if Crawford's win over Canelo was more impressive in terms of how it was executed, it doesn't suddenly make him better than Foe in terms of history. Since timing and career trajectory are important things to think about when making these kinds of comparisons.
a masterclass. One guy with outrageous skill offensively and defensively, simply making another very good fighter look lesser than. This was the other part. The people who watch MMA and then try to watch boxing through an MMA lens, I don't know what to tell you. You're actually missing the point. The kind of specific details and the depth of the technical ability far surpasses even what you can get at the highest level of MMA, because they don't have that level of skill. There is no equivalent in MMA to Bud Crawford, because there cannot be. Bud is the most talented boxer I've seen since Mayweather.
I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
To be fair to Floyd, he obviously had hand problems in his whole welterweight run, and it's why he took that long stretch off in 2007, 2008, 2009 area, and Floyd's brilliance to be able to be just as great in some ways at that age. We're not here trying to dunk on Floyd. When you get a victory like this, right now, straight up, Luke, you could say that there's not a welterweight, junior middleweight, or maybe even super middleweight. When you could say over like a 4-division stretch, Bud, cut down to any of these weights, that there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now, that's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd, I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao, because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late. I find Bud to be as defensively sound as I've ever seen a fighter. He can find you. There's nowhere to hide with him.
Like Floyd, he has such control over the turns in there. It's just insane.
As a result of the Canelo fight, Buddy McGirt was one of Crawford's biggest fans and said that Crawford dominated the fight. McGirt says that Crawford dominated the fight from the start and never let Canelo set the pace or use his normal aggressive style. He said that Crawford had won so clearly that there was no need for a second fight. Anyone who watched could tell the difference between skill and performance. McGirt also said that Crawford had finally achieved the reputation he had been looking for years by beating a boxer as good as Canelo. Crawford now has a signature win in his career, which proves to fans and researchers alike how great he was. McGirt doesn't have anything else to show. Crawford has made his own story, and his win over Canelo makes him an even bigger legend in boxing.
Yes.
Like, what fight were they watching?
Right.
I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I don't know what some of these guys be doing in this game, man. Some people, in situations like that, they should ask them, listen, just turn in your license, bro. Because there's no way in hell the fight was that close.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. It's just, it's not fair. It's not fair. You get a guy like Terence got here and dominate from beginning to end, and then you find out he needed the last 2 rounds to win. That's scary, man.
It is. And you see how you just mentioned scary. Now, a lot of people are saying, buddy, that type of beating, nah, he's not going to want a rematch. But looking at those gold cards and knowing that, hey, you wasn't too far behind, even though, he did mention that, he's better than Mayweather. But, I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like that was such a beating that Canelo wouldn't want a rematch?
No, I think that, in all honesty, personally, I think that Canelo's at that stage in his career right now, that it's a rematch he don't need. He don't need it. You know what I mean? What we saw that night, that's the stage Canelo's at right now. I mean, he's fought everybody, he's did everything, but you know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He lost it to Terence fair and square, and he passed the torch. So we're gonna have another fight, cool, but you don't need to. He has nothing to prove. He fought Terence and nobody else would.
When experts compare Floyd Mayweather to Terence Crawford, they say that Mayweather's thinking game is what keeps him one step ahead. A lot of people say Crawford is technically talented and can easily beat his opponents by changing stances and making changes in the middle of a fight. They say, though, that Mayweather had an extra level of mental control that made him much more dangerous. Flo fought not only physically, but also mentally, making his opponents make mistakes and give up on their plans. Having the upper hand before and during the fight is seen as the main difference between the two. There is no doubt that Crawford is very skilled, but many boxing historians think that Floyd's air of control and psychological warfare in every match is what made him great. The comparison shows how close Crawford is to being on the same level as Floyd, and how Flo's method still has its own unique mental depth.
Hagler, Hearns. I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Like I've seen all of those things, and those fights were wars. Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer I've ever seen. He's the most skilled boxer I've ever seen. Bud, and this is just my opinion, is the baddest man I've seen wear boxing gloves. And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. Bud is extremely skilled, right? Yet not as skilled as Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made people look foolish, right? And so if I had to say who's the greatest I've seen, and Bud said it right, the best of an era and the best of an era, it's Floyd. But when I watched Bud against Canelo, there was this extreme skill on display, and there was a level of crazy that's different. There was a level of, and Floyd's extremely tough. Go back to Shane Mosley and the 2 punches he landed early in the fight and the way that he embarrassed him. I'm not saying that Floyd's not tough, Floyd's not a bad man, but there was domination inside that ring we saw this weekend. And there's no fear in him in the way that he's attacked, gaining notoriety. Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years. But no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fights and the better fights. And he was arrow spin.
Terence Crawford has been showing off his skills for almost 10 years. But because he is quiet and doesn't like to make a fuss, many people in the fighting world have missed him. In contrast to boxers who rely on showy antics and overt self-promotion, Crawford liked to let his fights speak for themselves. This approach made him more well-known among tourists, but it kept him from getting a lot of attention early in his career. The general public is only now starting to notice his city after his big fights with Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez. Some, though, say that this recognition comes too late, since Crawford's career is already well underway and is more or less over. Even though he may keep adding to his list of achievements, the chance that he will leave a lasting legacy in the mainstream is decreasing. This makes some people wonder how his career would have been judged if he had been more famous much earlier.
How great he was. Canelo cemented him on what is the two-headed monster that marks the greatest of the 2000s. Floyd Mayweather is on that, and Bud Crawford is right next to him. I don't think we have to pick on who's better. I think they both dominated their eras.
Floyd Mayweather has been criticized many times for not recognizing other great fighters, often unwilling to admit that Muhammad Ali, who is widely thought to be the best athlete of all time, is ranked higher than him. Since Terence Crawford is doing things that are on par with Flo's, questions about his ego have come up again. Crawford's amazing win over Canelo has caused a lot of debate and could put him in the same historical situation as Floyd Mayweather is having a hard time processing this news because he cares a lot about his reputation. According to critics, Floyd enjoys being seen as the sole standard of boxing greatness. He loses his pride when another fighter moves into that area. Floyd's jealousy shows that he can't accept anyone being on the same level as him, which makes his public response to Crawford's rise confusing.
Par with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you know Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't like that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the biggest egos in the sport, so much so that he could not find a way to give Muhammad Ali credit as being a top 5 fighter and claimed that Roberto Duran sits above Muhammad Ali, right? Why? Because Floyd wants to be better than Muhammad Ali. He completely redid his image when he became Money Mayweather to pretty much copy from calling himself the GOAT, calling himself TBE, right? Whole thing. very disrespectful of Muhammad Ali when he was coming up, when after Floyd Mayweather Jr. wound up being at the top of the sport. So now that Terence Crawford has firmly placed himself at the top of boxing, and not just as the pound for pound fighter, right now, many people are saying, hey, shouldn't he be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time? Isn't this a realistic conversation we can have? So what does that do? That butts Terence Crawford right up against Floyd Mayweather. So when Floyd was asked a series of questions, right? Because Floyd has a fight coming up. I do believe it maybe in January. I think it may be in January or early 2026, I believe is the time frame, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting Mike Tyson in I believe this is going to be an.
Sean Porter talks to Terence Crawford about what made him take on jobs that other people said he couldn't handle. Crawford admitted that for years, many people had doubts about him and thought he couldn't compete at the highest level. He didn't fight the pressure. Instead, he accepted it and looked for ways to show them they were wrong. His wins over Spence and Canelo were not only big steps forward in his career, but they were also personal vindication that ended years of doubt and hate.
You want to, not when he wants you to. And you know what I mean? That's how it was.
I know, I'm sorry. I know this is bad production, but we gonna need you to turn that phone to the side. I know, I'm thinking about Happy right now. I'm like, he know better. That's better. That's better. Go ahead, Ant. Go ahead.
Hey, but you know how, man. We know me and Sean. We know you personally. I had people telling me, "Nah, man, this is just a money grab. He just went up there for the money." I said, "Man, if you know this dude, but you mentally, bro, I put you in the same category as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I'm like, he wants to be great. Y'all want the money, but I want to be great. Where that come from, man?"
It's just me. You know what I mean? Like, I think all the greats is just born with that competitiveness, you know, and like I said, you know, a lot of people, they didn't want me to accomplish the feat over Canelo. It wasn't that it wasn't possible. They didn't want me to be the one to do it because I was the one that they was blackballing for years. I was the one that they said, you know, wasn't gonna make it to this table. I was the one that they said couldn't sell. I was the one that they said, you know, made bad business decisions. So of course they don't want me to be the one to make it to the top and then conquer.
Porter emphasized Crawford's resolve to deal with problems head on, which showed his unique fighting spirit. While some may have chosen easier routes, Crawford eagerly sought out the toughest opponents, determined to show that he was one of the best. This approach has put him in the company of all-time greats, making sure that his legacy will be defined not only by talent, but also by hard work and persistence.
All odds, because now this is a slap in the face to every person that ever wrote a bad article about me, about anything.
Probably the best fit of all. And a lot of people get mad at me because I said, when it comes from pound for pound that I ever seen it in my lifetime, ever, I got Floyd, then I got you. They're like, well, what about blah, blah, blah? I said, this is who I seen. I seen Bud, I seen Floyd. I can't talk about what happened in the 20s and the 40s. I can talk about what I seen now. Do you feel like, Bud, you stamped your legacy and we're going to forever say, well, you could have beat this person, you could beat that person, you feel like you did it?
Of course, it's definitely going to be, it's already written in the history books. Yeah. Like before, everybody was already comparing me and saying things like that, but hold on. Yeah.
I know, good job.
Okay. But now, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so now he proving himself with a bigger, stronger guy in his weight division that he was undefeated in, that he was undisputed in, you know? So those things like that, you know, you can't ignore.
Hey man, how do you allow people not to put their limitations on you? Because when I gave motivation last week, I told them about like how you motivated me to start my own company. And I remember you been in my living in my kitchen, motivated to start my own company. How do you allow no one else to put their limitations on you?
This is the end of the movie for today. Until next time, stay tuned.